Hi, everybody. It's Tracy again, and this time I'm joined by a guest. His name is Parker. Parker is hopefully one of my subscribers. He comes in a lot on my video and Saturday Night Vibes and Radical Truth to Power. So Parker's here. He's going to ask me some questions, and we'll see how this goes. Parker, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. So the topic for this video I wanted to talk about was so the 2024 elections coming up. For the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that Biden is going to choose to run again for re-election, and I'm curious about whether or not there's going to be a challenger from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that challenges him for the nomination for 2024. So the first question I had is, and we'll both give our responses to this, is simply, is it worth it for a progressive candidate to try to challenge Biden in the 2024 primary? So Tracy, you can start off for this.
I think it's worth it, but do I think they'll do it? No. I don't think they have. How can I say this word? Because I don't cuss. I don't think they have it in them to do it. I think they're pretty much, my disappointment with the so-called progressives is just like, I'm so over it. It's like, you know what? You all they just lay down. So I don't see it coming within the quote unquote squad or anybody that's affiliated with them. No, I don't think they have the guts. They should. But do I see a progressive challenger coming from outside the system? Yes. But they may not necessarily be a Democrat.
Okay, so for my response to this question, I'm thinking like, how do you define whether it's like worth it or not? Because going into it, you know that you're at a very significant disadvantage running against an incumbent president, and like that's never been done before. Like I don't think in US history anyone's ever knocked off an incumbent president by primarying them in their own party. So the reasons why it could be worth it is like, I think the main thing is probably like continuing to push the progressive policies like Medicare for all, like Green New Deal, things like that, so that people don't forget about a lot of things that like Bernie was pushing for in 2016 and 2020. So that, because if there's not anybody who runs against Biden, then a lot of those topics aren't going to be discussed. And so I think that's a reason why it could be worth it for someone to jump in the race.
Yeah, like I said, it's worth it. I can't see them doing it. I just can't. I couldn't name a progressive that would have the bravery. I don't even think it's brave. Biden's record is terrible. He should be primary. He absolutely deserves to be primary. Let's take a look. $15 minimum wage. It gets voted against by 8 so-called Democrats. He never calls them out. He never says anything about it because he was never for any in the first place. He literally said of Medicare for all, if it gets to my desk, I'll veto. Progressives should have been like, okay, we're done with you. But did they? Nope. They went into this party unity BS crap. So no, I think it's definitely worth primarying him and Harris because they've had some accomplishments. I'm not going to be stupid and say they haven't done anything. But what they did, it's so bare minimum. Reducing student loan debt, which is being challenged in the courts. So it isn't actually in effect. They talk about the child tax credit, which went away. There were supposed to be $2,000 checks, but they ended up being $1,400. And we clearly heard him say 2,000. People were like, oh no, but what he meant? No, he said $2,000 checks. Roe v. Wade being basically outlawed in states, minus states that it's legal in. I think I would hope they would say, to primary him, but literally, I'm trying to think of every progressive Democrat I know. I don't see them doing it, but they should. I'm saying they should do it, but I just don't know. I I can't name any of them that would do it.
Yeah, so one final thing about the is it worth it question, and then we can go on to the other questions. But I was gonna say, like you were mentioning, how there were people in the Senate that voted against $15 minimum wage that are on the Democratic side, and so I think one possible way that there could be value in a progressive running for president in the primary is, even if they don't actually beat Biden, is getting in connection with other candidates who are going to be challenging in 2024 for Senate or like congressional races that are going to be challenging other like corporate Democrats in their primaries. So for example, like if somebody was running for president, they're going to Arizona. Kirsten Sinema's up in 2024. They could be like holding their rallies for their presidential campaign and also be promoting a primary challenger to Kirsten Sinema. So I think that could be a way to find value in someone running for president, even if the ultimate goal of defeating Biden is not achieved. There could be some other smaller things that could be achieved in the process.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think it's a great idea. I just think practically I don't see it. I just, like I said, I can't see anybody. And then you have to think about this, something we didn't even discuss. What about the media? The media clearly, especially, I'll call them out because it's going on my channel anyway, I don't care. MSNBC, CNN, they literally told people, well, Joe Biden is the clear choice. Now, minus the other 19 people that were in the race, when it was that big crowd of people trying to run. Could you imagine if a progressive actually ran against Joe Biden, how they would spin that story? They're portraying the party. They aren't for party unity. Are they even a Democrat? They're radical. Blah, blah, blah. Now, it doesn't matter to me because I don't watch those channels anyway, but a lot of people do. And that's something that I don't know if they do run, if that person does run, they have to run to win. They can't be in there thinking, oh, I'm just going to push him to the left. No, if you're going to primary him, you're going to have to think that you can win. You can't just run the primary him and just think, oh, I'll just push him to the left. And if he could just co-seed in this or do this, no, you have to think that you're going to win. Oh, and beat Trump because he's going to be the 24 nominee.
Yeah, so one of the things that you mentioned gets into the next question that I wanted to talk about, which is basically just what are the inherent advantages and disadvantages for someone who might choose to actually do this. So, and one of the things you were mentioning was the mainstream media kind of, I mean, we know for a fact that they would be suppressing the progressive challenger, not covering them much, and it would be a pretty big challenge to even like get on a debate stage with Biden, for example. And so I think that is definitely an example of one of many disadvantages that someone would face if they chose to run against Biden. And so some of the other disadvantages I thought of that, and you can pick up on this, but some of the obvious ones are like Biden would have massive fundraising advantage. All the establishment's going to be behind him, and he would be able to. So I think a significant portion of the voters who would be voting in a Democratic primary for president are more or less like okay with how his term has been so far. Like you and I, obviously, we are not satisfied with what he's done so far, but I think he would be able to list off a bunch of things that he's done so far, even if they're like the small half measures, and then a significant portion of the voters are going to be like, oh, okay, that's fine. We don't need a new, I'm not going to bother voting for a challenger to Biden. I'll just keep with the status quo. So what do you think about that? What do you think are some of the other kind of big disadvantages that someone would face in this?
I'll do the disadvantages first because you basically named the number one, the money. No money in politics should not be a thing. But I live in a place called reality, and it is. Joe Biden would have clearly all the money behind him. He'd have all the resources behind him. He would have all the party behind him. The only way a progressive could truly challenge him on the fundraising part would be to really drum up two ways, drum up the progressive and to them to give. And well, this one hurts me to say it, but I think you had to do it. You had to go to some of those conservatives and raise money. I wouldn't be comfortable doing it as a progressive, but if they gave to my campaign, it was $35, I don't know if I would be like, yeah, take your money back. But they definitely have to do a good job in getting progressives motivated to vote for them. I already said the media. Another negative or disadvantage would be if that person is in Congress, and I say Congress, I mean either the House or the Senate, and they run against Joe Biden, and they're trying to pass some sort of legislation, whether it be reparations for African Americans or Medicare for all. Not that those things have a chance of getting passed because now the Republicans control the House. But what chance do they have of getting anything done? There's a lot of petty people in Congress, i.e., Nancy Pelosi. Oh, but I didn't call any. I didn't call any name. I don't do that. Hakeem Jeffries, but they're petty. Joe Biden is their leader. He's their crown leader. He could literally say, the sky is green. And they'd be like, yep, sounds about right to me. Advantages. I don't think most of the Democrats want Joe Biden to run. I think there was a poll that said that like 64% of Democrats, not people like me, because I'm not a Democrat, but 64% of Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run again. And I had to say Harris because she's the vice president. So I'm assuming she's going to run in 2024 as his vice president choice. But when you have 64% of people that don't want you to run, that speaks volumes. So they really could use that to their advantage. I don't know, and this may be back in the negative, but I don't know how you would play that if you're a Democrat. I think if you were a progressive who wasn't a Democrat, who would challenge him, you'd be better off because if you're a Democrat progressive, which again, I really don't think that exists anymore, but that's just me. And you start criticizing, now it's, oh, well, they're just criticizing Joe Biden. What did they do to help Joe Biden? What did they do? They aren't the team player. Another advantage might be, and it depends on how this is played, is who it would be. There's only one person that I know that could run against Biden in primary. And he's already said if Biden runs, he's not going to, and that's Bernie Sanders. That's the only literal person I could think of that if he primaried Joe Biden, I could be like, okay, I'll go in and vote for Bernie. But I don't, he's already literally said, I'm not going to run because of his friend. I'm like, can I go on a sidebar? Hey, Bernie, do a better job in picking your friends, please. That's all I got. Because I'm like, that dude is not your friend. I mean, I can clearly see it, but maybe you don't. But like I said, he's pretty much the only option. And technically, he's not even a Democrat. He's an independent. He just caucuses with the Democrats. So I'm like, he's probably the only person that I could think of. Um, some of them are too young, like AOC. I don't even think she's anywhere near 35.
She 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 I've looked this up. She would be 35 by the time the inauguration would happen in January of 2025. So
So yeah, she wouldn't be old enough. Or could she still run? No, she could still run.
yeah, I think if you're 35 by the time the inauguration happens, you would be eligible.
Yeah, so she would be eligible. So she'd be seen as too young. Rashida Tlaib, she's Muslim. Hate to say it, but this country has no common sense because I think a few more years, like I would love for her to do. If I couldn't pick Bernie, I could pick Rashida Tlaib and be totally fine with her primary in Biden. She's already spoken. She's like a critic of Biden's now. So it wouldn't be unusual for her to say, yeah, well, I agree with the president on some things. He hasn't gone far enough. Ayanna Pressley, she doesn't come across as a person that wants to do anything. Jamal Bowman, no. Cori Bush, no. Ilhan Omar can't run because she was not a naturalized citizen. She's from Kenya. So she'd have, or Somalia.
Yeah, I think it's Somalia.
Yeah, Somalia.
I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, but she can't. Yeah. She can't. Katie Porter was probably not going to, but that would be an interesting pick. But you know, my pick is Nina. I'm always gonna say Nina. Well, that's who I'm gonna say. But I don't know if she's listening to me, and she still considers herself a Democrat. Do it. She won't, but oh, I would be so excited about a Nina Turner run for presidency.
Yeah, so I'll get into Nina Turner in a second, but to kind of finish up on the possible like advantages of someone running, I think you made a good point about how a lot of Democrats don't really want Biden to run, like that poll you cited, and then I think so. Biden is about. I was looking up stuff before this video that we're doing. I found out that tomorrow's Biden's birthday, but he turns 80 tomorrow, and so he would be 81 by the time the 2024 election comes around. And so I think that could play a factor into voters maybe wanting someone else to be the candidate.
You know, now I know a lot of people on my podcast disagree with me on this. I don't like the ageism card. I don't like it because I feel like, one, I want to definitely be 80 years old. Definitely want to get to 80 years old. I would hate to be 80 and somebody tell me, you're past it. I believe in, you know, bringing up the next generation, training them and equipping them. But to say you can't do it because you're old, that irks me. When the left does that, I'm like, there's a difference between Bernie old and Biden old. It's like what you're for. Biden is basically a Republican. Basically, that's his ideology. The nicest thing I can say about him is he's a segregationist. That's like the nicest thing I could say. But in terms of a disadvantage, you're probably right that it is a disadvantage. But he still has the I'm white thing going for him.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, like, I don't have a huge problem with like the person's age. I was just kind of saying like the general public probably would have, yeah. So so I wanted to get to your naming off some of the potential people who might run, and so I have a list of 4 people, and some of them you've already named, but so I'll just get to Nina Turner first. So I have a little bit of experience like meeting her in public because I went to Cleveland when she ran for Congress her second time and did some like canvassing and was there for like some of the events she did. And so I have a strong kind of bias towards Nina because I think she's a really great person and candidate. And so I think, and I don't know if you have seen this or not, or if you saw it at the time, but when Nina was giving her concession speech on whenever she lost to Chantel Brown the second time, when she was giving the speech, she gave some strong hints at possibly running in 2024. Are you aware of that or not? Okay, you are. Okay, so
I saw that and I've never cheered. I've never cheered at a concession speech unless the person who was giving it I didn't like. Then I'm just cheering like, yeah, you lost, ha ha ha. But when she made her concession, let me take this a step back. First of all, her loss, Democrats, y'all know y'all did her wrong. Y'all know y'all treated her like garbage. Now for her concession speech, I've never felt more like that's what you do. That's exactly what you do. She fired up the crowd. And I'm like, this is if you didn't know she had lost, you would have thought she had won. Because she was like literally on fire. I'm like, oh my goodness. Please run. I just kept saying when she said that little part about she's gonna take her message across the country, I'm like, please, please do it.
yeah, so I actually was in that room that night when she gave that speech. So that was, I don't know. I feel like being in person like is and having the energy of the crowd when she made that speech it's like you can't really explain it to someone who wasn't there at the event just because like I felt like going into the night like it was at kind of like a bar type location, but a whole bunch of people were all like following the results and we were all pretty like disappointed because she lost by a bigger margin than she did the first time that she ran for Congress. And so when she went up on the stage, she gave some like pre-prepared remarks. She was like reading from something on her phone and then she goes, it was kind of funny. She was like, okay, and now I'm gonna give some like extemporaneous remarks. And then she goes and like puts her phone down and then like takes the mic and like she's like gives her whole thing that you were saying about like, and I'm gonna go all across the country. I'm gonna go to California, Nevada, Iowa, and so that was definitely a really exciting thing to witness, like in person. So I think, yeah, she would probably be at the top of my list as to someone I would want to challenge Biden. And so I think she would honestly be, if there's anyone, I feel like she would be the most willing to take this challenge on as opposed to like an AOC or a Cori Bush, because I think AOC and Cori Bush have more to lose by running for president than Nina does, because their AOC and Cori Bush are already in Congress, and you know, like if they did decide to run for president, there's going to be a huge backlash within the House against them, and so yeah. What do you think about that?
I'm agreeing with you. I think she is what I wish Bernie was. Like I love Bernie, don't get me wrong, Bernie fan in his camp, love it. But she takes it a step further where I know she's not gonna be afraid to call out some garbage. She does it on her podcast, she did it through her work. I don't see her getting the support of Democrats, which is why I hope she runs as an independent. But I have if she runs, I will chair her Indiana campaign, like the state of Indiana. I will do that. I will literally do that. I just don't think she will. I think Bernie's going to talk her out of it.
That would
I don't
be
know why I have that feeling, but I'm like, no, I just don't. I think he's going to try to, but if she's strong in it, like, no, I'm going to do it, he's not going to support it. He's going to be like, I support Joe, my friend. But I want her to so bad, so badly. I think I've said that like 1,000 times on my other podcasts. Please run, please run.
yeah. I think with what you were saying about Bernie, whether or not he would support Nina if she did run for president, that gets into like the final question I had for our conversation, which is whether or not we'll just use Nina as an example, whether or not she would be able to get the support of other progressives that may be in higher up positions, to like whether or not she would be able to get the endorsement of them if she ran for president. And I think that's a really tough question because like it's hard to imagine like, okay, the only way I could see Nina getting this endorsement of like AOC and Bernie is if she somehow miraculously gained a bunch of momentum and it looked like she might have a chance in like Iowa or New Hampshire, and then maybe AOC or Bernie would endorse her at that point. But I don't think they would endorse her if she's like, if Nina's polling at like 5 to 10% and it doesn't look like she has a chance. I think she would have to prove to them that she has at least somewhat of a chance of getting close in one of the early primary states, and then possibly they
Yeah,
would support
I
her.
think Bernie would. I don't think AOC would. And the reason I don't think AOC would is she has more to lose than Bernie. Bernie's pretty much, he's good. He's gonna do what he's gonna do. I don't know, like you said, she would have to do well enough, but I think her path to victory is going to be, again, Nina, please run as an independent, is to run it as an independent and get all of the third parties out there together and to support her candidacy. That, if she could do that, and we could just all get behind her, and then whoever we want to run locally, we run locally. That's going to be, if she can, if she can engage people who never voted or rarely vote and get them to come out to the polls, then we're going to be start talking about Democratic mainstream, talking about, oh, well, she's doing better than I thought. Oh, her candidacy has legitimacy. But if Nina doesn't run, I got another name, Marianne Williams. Problem, Marianne, I had to come around on Marianne. I'll be honest. Because when I first heard her talk, I'm like, ooh, honey, what have you been smoking? Because you all way out there. But as I heard her speak, I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. She she has, I don't know what kind of effect I'm calling it. She has a calming effect. Like you could tell that she really cares. But yeah, when I first saw her, I'm like, honey, put the pipe down. Do no, don't no. Because I thought, oh, she's out there. But then as I got to study her platform, her speak, and she came around on a lot of issues I care about, specifically reparations for Black people and specifically Medicare for all. Once she got to those two, I was like, okay, now I can listen to you. Because if you're not for those two, I'm not listening to you. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so I have a similar kind of opinion that you do on Marianne Williamson. Like, I definitely was also skeptical of her when I first saw her when she was in the presidential debates back in like summer of 2019 when they were first doing the primary debates. And I think I also agree that like I think she had a better answer on the reparations question than some of the other candidates did in that race when they were asked like on the debate stage. So I think that's a positive for her, and she has. I think the only issues I have with Marianne Williamson is like, and I guess this is really the case for anyone that might try to run against Biden, is just like I feel like nobody really knows about her, and she doesn't have experience in like an elected office before, and I think that could be a hurdle for her getting
Okay,
like her name out
yeah,
there.
I get where you're going, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you slightly. What political experience did Trump have? None. And he got elected president of the United States. I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened, but he did. He had never held an office. He had never volunteered. He had never did anything. And yet his address was 1600 Pennsylvania. That was his address for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump, I mean, he has, I mean,
Oh,
this is kind of,
plus they ran a terrible, the Democrat, y'all ran a terrible candidate in Hillary. Y'all just admitted she was a terrible candidate. But that's just me.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think Trump had an advantage, like, even though he had never served in any elected office before, like everyone knew him as the apprentice person or the like real estate person. Like he already had a big name in America, but like Marianne Williamson, it's like nobody really knows about her. Like,
She appeared on Oprah. Oh, but so did Dr. Oz. Never mind. I'll take that argument back.
but yeah, I think I don't know. It's hard because, like we were saying earlier, like the people who have served in elective office, or if they're currently in elected office, are probably going to be the least likely people to run against Biden just because they have a lot more to lose. And so it's hard to, that's kind of like one of the struggles in finding a candidate to run against Biden, is because you're going to have to pick a more of an outsider type of person because they have less to lose, basically.
Right. And that's where it gets tricky because you assume, you said on the top, you assume that he is going to run for reelection. I don't think he will. I seriously don't think he will. And then the question becomes, who then is the Democrat nominee? I'll tell you some people who I don't want to see. I definitely don't want to see Pete Buttigieg. No, 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 no. And it's not because of his lifestyle. I want anybody sitting here saying, you didn't know. That is not why. If neoliberalism was a person, it would be Pete Buttigieg. No, he's like the last on the list. It can't be Beto O'Rourke. He runs for everything. It would make the most sense. It would be Kamala Harris, since she is already vice president, but really nobody likes her. I don't know if Biden, like I said, I don't know if he does run, and if he doesn't run, who's going to be the nominee? It would have to, you'd have to by default say Harris. It couldn't be anybody but her.
Yeah, so I don't know, I have a different view that I do believe Biden is going to run for reelection. I think one of the main reasons I think he's going to run for reelection is because Democrats did better than expected in the midterms, and
Yeah.
I think Biden is going to be more confident in his own personal confidence. I'm saying I think he'll think like, oh, we did better than expected in the midterms. And Trump's going to be the nominee. Like I beat him in 2020. I can beat him again. Like I see him.
That's the only person he can beat. If Trump somehow gets put in prison, which he won't, and he loses the nomination and somebody like DeSantis wins, Biden's in trouble. Because I think that DeSantis is like Trump wacko, but a little bit smarter. He a little bit smarter. Not by much, but he just a little bit smarter. And I don't think it takes much to get the Republican nomination. I could be totally wrong.
You can finish what you're saying. Were you going to say something else?
No.
Okay. I was just going to say I agree. Like, I think if DeSantis is the Republican nominee and he's going up against Biden, I would say it's more likely that DeSantis wins that scenario, but I think Biden would probably beat Trump. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
I think Biden could definitely beat Trump, even though it was close the last time. Absolutely, positively. I don't know if he beats DeSantis. They would have to do a whole lot of corrections. Like if you could keep half of your policies, maybe that would increase your chances of getting reelected. But I don't know if getting reelected is his goal. I think he met his goal. Like how many times he run for president before he got elected? 15, 16. I don't know. It was like a whole bunch of them. I think it was like three. Let me be realistic. It was 3 times he ran. It's like third time's the charm. Okay, he got it. Goal achieved. He can step off the plate, get a street named after him, get a library. He achieved what he wanted.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, for me it's like hard to imagine any president voluntarily stepping down. That's just like, just in the nature of American politics. Like, I guess the last time an American president stepped down was Nixon, I guess.
Well, he had to.
Yeah. So like, other than that, I don't know of any other president that voluntarily stepped down from their position. So that's why I find it harder to imagine that Biden would do that. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say it. I'm like, it makes sense, but then I'm like, he's 80. Not that, again, I don't believe in ageism, but like maybe that's a factor. Like, I don't know. My gut says he's not going to run, but heck, I was the person that said Trump was going to win re-election. So what the heck I know.
Okay, so yeah, that's, I pretty much got through all the questions that I wanted to ask and discuss for this. So Tracy, if you, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about this, or um
It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that now. Even though this is 2022 still, somehow we got thrust into 2024 politics, and 2023 hasn't even came here yet. But the only thing I can say is there's only one way for your voice to be heard. Register yourself to vote. That's all I can say. And Nina, run. Run, Nina. Please. I'm begging. But that's all I have.
okay, all right, well, that's all for me. So I guess we can end the video now.
Thank you for inviting me.